Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because, well, we're tackling a monster. And it's a monster pretty much everyone on the planet has had to face at some point, that universal, stomach-churning dread of the job interview. Seriously, if just the thought of walking into that room makes your heart beat a little faster, I want you to know right out of the gate that you are completely normal. You are absolutely not alone in this. I mean, we've all been there, right? Staring at the ceiling the night before, running through a million terrible scenarios in our heads. But today we're going to completely flip the script on all that anxiety.
So, first things first, why do interviews actually terrify us so much? Honestly, it's perfectly natural to feel that sudden urge to just turn and run away. It's the exact same reason we suddenly get those sweaty palms, or why we give those incredibly awkward, overly firm handshakes, or, why we completely forget how our own human arms work the second we walk into the room. This fear, it's a deeply human, perfectly natural response to a high-stakes unknown. You're walking into a room where someone is actively evaluating you, your livelihood might literally depend on it, and you have absolutely no idea what they're going to ask. I mean, that is inherently scary.
Okay, let's dive into this. Based on our source material today, we have 7 distinct, highly effective ways to fix that fear. The text outlines 7 proven tips for removing interview anxiety, and we're going to unpack exactly how each of these solutions dismantles that fear, literally brick by brick. And the best part, these aren't just some vague, abstract ideas. They are highly actionable tools you can put into practice immediately to reclaim your confidence.
To make all of this super easy to digest, we're organizing these 7 tips across a chronological timeline, before the interview, during the interview in the room, and after the meeting wraps up. So, starting with phase 1, before you walk in, arming yourself for the cave. Right off the bat, we're looking at the first 2 tools in our arsenal, preparation and mock interviews. Now, the real beauty of these first 2 steps is that they are entirely in your hands. Think about it. When you're feeling anxious about an upcoming interview, a lot of that stems from a profound lack of control. But tackling your preparation and staging mock interviews, that gives you absolute control over the controllables. Sure, you can't dictate the exact questions they're going to ask you, but you absolutely can dictate exactly how ready you are to answer them. Let's look at how this builds up your confidence.
Tip number 1 is preparation. This is really all about building a solid foundation of knowledge to eliminate that fear of the unknown. Remember how we just talked about the unknown being the main trigger for your panic response? Well, doing the hard, kind of unglamorous work of preparation is the ultimate antidote to that interview anxiety. You basically want to replace the unknown with facts. So for example, if they need a project manager, don't just memorize your past titles. Mentally map out exactly how you handled budget crises in your last role and connect that to their current needs. When you replace the terrifying unknown with cold, hard facts and solid research, the fear literally physically shrinks.
And this brilliantly illustrates tip number 2. Practice out loud with mock interviews. Because, let's be honest, knowing the information in your head is one thing, but actually speaking it out loud into the air is a totally different ballgame. Simulating the actual environment through mock interviews removes the whole shock factor of the real thing. Get a friend or a mentor to sit across from you, put on your actual interview clothes, and answer their questions out loud. When you do this, your brain maps the experience. So when you finally walk into the actual interview room, your brain kind of goes, "Oh hey, I've done this before. We're safe here."
Moving on to phase 2, in the hot seat, crossing the threshold.
So what exactly does fear look like compared to confidence? Well, anxious candidates are usually fidgeting, maybe shrinking down into their chairs, and kind of pretending to be someone they think the corporate culture demands. It's tense, but we have 2 incredible tools to completely reverse that physical and mental state. Let's take a look at tip number 3, body control, and tip number 4, authenticity.
Tip number 3 is body control. This means managing your physical responses to project a sense of inner calm. And here is a truly fascinating biological fact. Taking deliberate charge of your physical body directly short-circuits your mental panic loop. It's like a hack. If your brain is racing, just plant your feet firmly on the floor, uncross your arms, drop your shoulders, breathe evenly. By forcing your physical body to adopt a relaxed, open, and controlled posture, you are actually sending biological signals back up to your brain telling it, hey, there's no immediate danger here.
Which completely frees you up for tip number 4, authenticity. This is about being your genuine self rather than who you think they want you to be. So the crucial point is this: playing a character is just exhausting. Trying to constantly guess what the interviewer wants to hear and then twisting your answers to fit that imaginary mold, that is an incredibly anxiety-inducing burden.
It takes so much mental RAM to maintain a fake facade. But if you just drop the act and bring your authentic self to the table, you instantly free up all of that brain power to just listen and converse naturally.
All right, phase 3, navigating the hard parts, facing the tough questions.
Here is where you use tip number 5. You pause. Did you feel that? Taking a literal, deliberate 3-second pause feels like an absolute eternity when you're in the hot seat. But to the interviewer sitting across from you, it just looks like you are deeply considering their question. A moment of silence totally gives you back your power. You do not have to fill the air the very millisecond they finish speaking. Just pause, take a breath, think, and then speak. It is an incredibly commanding move.
And when you do speak, you want to utilize tip number 6, focus on strengths. Look, when you get a tough question, it is so easy to start dwelling on your weaknesses or apologizing for what you don't know. But doing that just instantly triggers imposter syndrome. Instead, actively steer the conversation toward what you do best. If they ask about some obscure software you don't know, don't just say, "I don't know it," and stop there. Focus on your strengths by saying something like, "I haven't used that specific tool, but I have extensive experience quickly mastering similar systems like X and Y." You basically neutralize the fear by pivoting right back to your actual capabilities.
And finally, we reach the last phase, handling the aftermath, emerging transformed.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is our final tip, accept rejection. Ultimately, the fear of the interview is really just the fear of hearing the word no. But if you can fundamentally reframe that rejection, not as some personal failure or a reflection of your worth, but as an inevitable, totally acceptable part of the process, well, the fear just loses its grip on you. Every no simply narrows the path, redirecting you closer to the yes that actually fits you perfectly.
Let's bring this all together. Here is a final recap of all 7 interview fear removal tips straight from our source. 1. Preparation. 2. Mock interviews. 3. Body control. 4. Authenticity. 5. Pause and think. 6. Focus on strengths. And 7. Accept rejection. This really ties our entire chronological timeline together into one complete, powerful toolkit. You prepare the mind, you simulate the environment, you control the physical body, you show up as your genuine self, you take your time to think, you highlight your power, and finally, you make peace with the outcome.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to take with you today. What if your next rejection is really just making room for your perfect job? If you adopt these 7 tools, you seriously don't have to be terrified of the interview room ever again. It's not a trap. It's just a conversation to see if the puzzle pieces fit. So go in there, use this toolkit, and claim your space. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.